You're listening to Songwriters and Tour Writers, a music podcast from KOSU, giving you an inside look at musicians coming from Oklahoma and those just passing through. On this episode is the lead singer of Broncho, Ryan Lindsey. Broncho's latest album, Natural Pleasure, is a return to a pace much more natural to Lindsey. In this episode, he reflects on 15 years of Broncho, the origins of the band and his musical life, and how this album is different from previous Broncho albums. You came down to Norman to record this album, right? You always go with Chad at Blackwatch?
Yeah, that's right.
Was that the first time you'd been back in Norman for a while?
Yeah, I kind of did it over somewhere in COVID where it was like, okay, I guess I should maybe get out of here for a second. I went there for a few days at a time. I'd maybe be there like 2 or 3 days, and we would start opening up sessions that we had either worked on previously that were like previous ideas or stuff I'd done at home. Um, and then started doing like also tracking new ideas there, and then just did that, I guess, for a few years. It felt like we had forever to do it. It's kind of like pandemic mode was like a frame of like a way of thinking. It was like, oh well, we have forever, let's just slow burn it. And eventually out of nowhere it was like, oh, I think the record's done. you know and that came way quicker than I thought. Like, and at the pace things were getting done, it seems like we should still be working on it, but somehow uh in the some at some point it dawned on me that we were done. And so I got all my things together here and then drove to Norman and really kind of finalized everything mix wise, and then started running mixes through stuff through tape, and uh, sending to have other people use their tape machines. This guy, Ashton, a friend of Chad's, we ran stuff through his Tascam. He's got a Tascam reel to reel. I think it's reel to reel. It could have been cassette, but I think it's reel to reel.
Had you done that before?
Yeah, it seems like every record we either get a tape machine that we're running stuff through, or a friend of Chad's will have a machine that sounds cool, and we'll have them run through it. And so we've done that on pretty much every record, whether we find a tape machine or Chad finds one or it has one that's like really working and sounds great. There was like, he has this tape machine that he bought from a company that still does they'll do like, you can call them up and they'll walk you through it or talk you through it, or be like, we're going to send you some equipment to fix it or whatever. So there was a little bit of a like NASA Mercury mission vibe, where we're kind of like upside down underneath this tape machine, and these guys are on the phone telling us like, okay, take your small like Phillips head and you're going to find a little Phillips head in there and just crank it just slightly, maybe a quarter turn, and see if that helps. And then slowly we got the machine to work again, which was great.
How long did it take you guys to like you said, like 2020-ish is when you sort of started going there and then kept going there periodically over like the last couple years?
Yeah, it could have been the end of 2020 when I had gone there, but I had been working on stuff like in my garage and in my house. COVID was full on like spring of 2020, so kind of over that summer and fall, I started recording a lot, just myself, and then went there and we everybody kind of showed up, and we a structure of all these songs, and then everybody played over it. And then we kind of did that for just a while.
So everybody kind of first heard those demo tracks or whatever you recorded at home at the same time?
I think I had been sending everybody like my just my rough versions of songs. If I know myself, I definitely was doing that prior to. So I think everybody had heard the ideas. Yeah, and then probably I imagine that like when we first really started getting together, I was doing new versions, and then in some cases went back to like the original demo version on parts because I just felt like there was something about that version I liked better. Like Shirley and Way the Magic, both those were I did in my like in my house with my kid, kind of crawling around, you know. So he shows up in time. He was a baby at that point, but
Yeah, how old is he now?
he's 3, and now we have another one that's the same age as he was when I was working on the record. So it's a little trippy sometimes. I'm like, oh wait, which one are you, and where am I, and what if I? Oh yeah, I finished it. Okay, you know. We've already finished all the summer tour except for our Kane show. And so that's kind of crazy how quick everything happened. But time seems to be speeding up these days.
Was this the first tour you've kind of done as like a parent?
We did a tour in 2022, and our first kid was like 6 months old at that point. So that was the first one. That was really hard. I remember like definitely being depressed when I left him, but and this tour was kind of the same. Like I was really sad when I left. You know, kind of you cry when you leave, and then all of a sudden you find yourself on your way to Denver, and you kind of remember what you're doing, and you're like, okay, um, this is all gonna be a good time, you know. And then before you know it, you're back home. So it I find that time seems to be moving quickly in that way. It's like you just kind of can relax for a second and you'll end up being where somewhere you're looking forward to being, whether it be on tour or sometimes, getting back home as well.
Yeah, did you find on this leg that you were kind of managing the balance better?
Yeah, I think for me, once I'm in the swing of things, it all feels pretty natural and normal. And I do feel pretty natural on the road and on the highway. So that kicks in at some point, you know. Um, and so you just kind of balance it. But we're so busy on the road anyway that, I'll FaceTime with my kids and then be doing something. And before I know them, it's, the next day or the end of the week. And it's all moving pretty quickly. So
Yeah, were you getting pretty antsy since it before this year? I guess it must have been like 3 years since you kind of went on a long stretch of tours. You played a show with Jack White, right?
it was like our first show in a year, and got a message the night before if we wanted to play with Jack White again tomorrow. And so I figured like the answer was yes. So I just said yes and then kind of hit up everybody to make sure they could, you know. And luckily everybody was here. So it all worked out. And that was like really when we had finished our record. So also it was a funny spot too, because we had finished our record, but we weren't playing any of those songs and we hadn't even like rehearsed any of those songs. So it wasn't even like in our minds that we'd even like attempt them. So it made playing that show very easy. Like we got together and just ran through the songs that we'd played for years, like twice, and then went and loaded in. you know, and sound checked and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of tour dreams, and so I don't like through COVID and through the few years where we were just like raising our kids and staying home. Um, I dream about tour like almost on a nightly basis, and so I kind of feel like I don't ever feel like I haven't been there in a while. It feels like I was just there the night before. And they're always pretty good dreams. The most stressful thing that tends to happen is like we can't make it. We can't leave wherever we're at to make it to the venue, or we're at the venue and I can't find like any of my stuff, or like I don't have any clothes on, or I'm on stage and nothing's working. It's that type of stuff, which in a way I feel like trains me for when you do find yourself in those situations uh, in the physical world. It feels like you've been there before. It's somewhat of training. It's like, okay, this has happened before. I guess I'll look for another cable or try to find my pants.
Is there a spot that you tend to dream of? Like, is there a venue that you're always like constantly like showing up at in your dreams?
No, it's very just kind of like there's I don't even know necessarily where we are, and but sometimes I will wake up and feel like maybe it was some region. It's like, oh, we were definitely close to home. It felt like somewhere in our world. There has been like times where it felt European, but I didn't talk to anybody or hear it. It just had the streets were narrower, and uh, the buildings were closer and it's dark. They're usually at night. A lot of my dreams. I have a lot of Stillwater dreams from growing up there as well. It's either like a tour dream, a Stillwater dream, or just kind of like a any type of All the Stillwater dreams are at night, kind of going through Stillwater. We could be like in any park, always at night, and it's with a friend, or something.
Somebody was telling me how you were like probably back when you were young, in a band with Nick Wheeler, like from the All American Rejects.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was Nick. Nick played drums, and then my brother Jake played guitar, and I played bass. And Nick had a Tascam 4-track, and we would record at his house and write. Like he had a great setup to practice and stuff. And then that was definitely 14 14 to 15 age.
What kind of stuff were you making? Like, what kind of music was it?
It was like Christian pop punk, you know.
Like MXPX?
Yeah, that's it, exactly the world it was in. And yeah, it's like some of my earliest musical memories are definitely those shows.
Did you just keep playing like music from then on?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like I felt like I had no choice from then on. I was just like always in a band. So after that, I kind of played by myself for a while, just kind of like writing on my own. And then in college, I started some bands with friends. It was like, oh, you guys gotta, oh, he's got drums. Yeah, let's go play. And and then eventually quit college. I started playing. I was in a band called Cheyenne with Bo Jennings. We did some touring, and then opened up for Starlight Mints. I don't know, like maybe a year or two after I'd quit college. And then I started playing with Starlight Minutes and toured with them for a while. That's when I stuck around Oklahoma because we were traveling. I think it made me really like living here and like coming home here. In a time when I was like thinking about moving other places because all my friends were moving places, and I then decided to just stay here, and it just always felt right. And I've always loved living here and coming home to Oklahoma, and now coming home to Tulsa. In Tulsa, like my parents grew up here, so this was kind of my second home growing up. Like my grandparents lived here and cousins. So I always knew I was going to get to Tulsa somehow, maybe.
I noticed the classical guitar. Is that what you usually write on?
Yeah, I borrowed this from my dad like a long time ago and never gave it back to him. And it ended up on the record a lot. It's definitely on Shirley and Way into Magic, and it's also probably on a lot of others, but I can't think of them at the moment. Probably some Original Guilt in the background somewhere, and Imagination for sure. I Swear. It's on I Swear. Like on Imagination. I kept turning it up. So to me, now I hear it because I kept being like, I like that part, and just kept like cranking it.
I hadn't heard your solo stuff before. Yeah, and I listened to it and I was like, oh wow, this is like very acoustic guitar like centric.
Yeah, totally. It was like when I had a piano around in my life and an acoustic guitar. But I'm about to get my parents' piano. They're giving me their piano, so who knows? Maybe piano will get back in my life.
So let's go back when you met the guy you thought was right.
Are you usually like writing with that acoustic?
Yeah. I've definitely the last record, a lot of it was at least written on here.
Do you carve out time in the day to like specifically write, or is it just sort of random?
It's kind of random. It can happen anytime. Sometimes it happens like right when I'm like finally in bed and it'll like something will just be like looping in my head, and I'll like feel the need to get up, at least go voice memo it, you know?
Are you doing like vocals and lyrics at the same time as you're playing guitar?
Lyrics kind of come out through just me mumbling. Sometimes a lyric will like kind of stick. And then I'll just keep hitting that word and see what comes out of that. And sometimes like a whole like it can come together super quick. The last song on our new record, Dreamin', that song happened super quick. I had just the initial idea, and then it all just came together really fast.
Taking any old time for me, angel. It's
Sometimes it just takes a minute, and it could be like a year later, and the song will come back to mind, and then a new word will all of a sudden hit, and that will like springboard a whole, section of, maybe I'll finish the lyrics, or write a big chunk just based off of like a different perspective of what's going on with that song. So yeah, it's just kind of like the music's always kind of happening while maybe some lyrics are happening. But I don't necessarily have any hard rules on how to do it. It's just kind of like however it shows up, I'm happy that it's there, you know?
To say no, then say so. Alright, maybe it's all you like to know. I'm trying, an angel. It's alright with me. Making any old time for me.
How did you end up getting to this sort of style of singing, and like all the different sort of, it feels like your voice is always laden with like effects on the recordings for Broncho.
Yeah, I think I just I like effects. Like we played this show in New Orleans on this summer tour. This place called Tipitina's, which I've always known about it, and I was really excited to play there, and it ended up being great. I had a great night. It was one of my oldest friends came. He's like, "I'm coming to New Orleans." Great night. But anyway, was talking to this guy after, and he was like a guy that I could see in the crowd singing. Like he knew more lyrics than I know, or he would sing the lyric. And I'm like, oh, you do know. I just knew that he knew, you know. So then I saw him after, and he was telling me how much he loved it and all this stuff. And then he goes, "Oh yeah, one last question." And I was like, "Uh-huh." And he goes, "Why do you use so much reverb on your vocals?" And I was like, I don't know. I guess I like it. But then I realized, you know what? Like maybe he's right. So like I for the rest of that tour, I let our sound guy Caleb. I was like, "You take over the verb," because I have a pedal that has verb on it, which maybe someday through therapy I'll realize crazy or something. But I have like vocal pedals that I can put slapback on it, echo and verb. So anyway, I pared it down to just echo, and I'm proud of myself for giving away the verb. But I thought the guy had a point, you know, like maybe you're right. And it honestly like cleaned my world up a lot. And so now Caleb uses verb when needed, you know, more appropriately than all the time.
Is it intentional to sort of have the lyrics not always be like super clear, I guess?
Well, I think there's a couple things going on there for me as far as that goes. Sometimes it's the song I feel like feels better with a lot of reverb. And it's also record to record. Like Double Vanity had a lot of verb on it because it just felt right when we turned it up. And on guitars too, we had a ton of verb on. We had like a verb send for like guitars and a verb send for like vocals and stuff. And then one that had everything in it, and that one always sounded great. So just crank it. And then Bad Behavior was, it kind of felt good to dry it up and not have a lot of verb. Uh, and so specifically like on, when I was talking about verb on tour, it was kind of like letting those moments happen like they do on the records, where like maybe you get to some Bad Behavior songs and the verb gets turned down for a minute, let everybody chill. But I guess vocally, sometimes when the takes I like best are the ones that feel very natural, and sometimes it can come at the expense of things not being so clear lyrically. But ultimately, I sometimes when I'll go in and try to do a take that maybe is more like really enunciated, the spirit won't be there for me like it was in the other takes. And so in those moments, I kind of veer. But with effects and all, I just sometimes I turn it up and it feels good, and I just leave it. It's kind of that simple.
You've said this a couple times now, where it's just like natural, doing what feels natural. What does the album title like kind of mean to you? Natural pleasure.
Well, I think I already really try to float in that world anyway of just um, whatever happens, you know, we'll figure it out, and kind of floating down the river in zero gravity. That way of living definitely I have found helps touring. When you're on tour and you're kind of floating in that world, and whatever happens, you just kind of take it. Makes travel like a lot easier. So maybe it was already kind of baked into our world of we kind of tour naturally. But uh, originally, the record for the longest time, it was going to be National Pleasure, which I thought was a really funny joke, like take on National Treasure. But everybody thought it sounded a little too alt right. And then I realized like they were right, and I was like, oh well. And then it just really quickly uh, went to natural. I was like, oh well, it's natural pleasure, and it happened pretty quick.
I mean, I definitely like the association with the Nick Cage great franchise, National Treasure.
Dude, anytime it comes on, I'll watch it.
Was there anything you were listening to or like anything you had in your head, like going into the studio to record that you're like, I'd really like to make a record like this, or I'm really enjoying the sounds off of like this guy's music?
The only thing I remember talking about a lot was uh, telling everybody like, like Summer of Love, and everybody was like, yeah. And I don't know if they knew what I meant, but it was like during a period where I was writing imagination, and also uh, You Got Me, and Dreamin', and Funny. Funny kind of came, it was like something else, but then kind of repurposed it. And then kind of living in that world. I swear it was the world I was living in my garage was like Summer Love. Come on, guys, Summer Love. I was listening to Van Morrison definitely, and kind of all those like baseball in between inning hits. They'd play at baseball games or something, like Steve Miller Band, and dun, 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 dun. Just like a playlist of a lot of those hits. Just like I definitely was listening to a lot of that at that point. I remember good happy songs when you're just kind of by yourself in your backyard, and nobody can come over, you know.
Do you think Steve Miller Band made it on, like in some form, onto this record somehow?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Abracadabra, I would say Way into Magic probably can find its spiritual traces back to Abracadabra, maybe.
Being special, being special,
I bumped into somebody while I was out, like over the weekend, and I was telling them that I was going to interview you, and they mentioned that I should ask you what local bands like inspired you to like start playing music, I guess.
Starlight Mint was a huge musically and also just touring and how to play an electric guitar, because I hadn't really played electric guitar until I started playing with Starlight Mint. And Alan, really just watching him, it took me a while, and then out of nowhere it all kind of started making sense to me. But I was very timid and felt really dumb at sound check forever. Like playing, and they're like, okay, guitar two, you know, I'm like, I just like dreaded every sound check because I just sucked so bad. And then out of nowhere, I realized to embrace my version of guitar, and I think that's ultimately what Broncho became, was like my version of someone who has confidence to dig into their electric, but maybe they're not like the best guy in the room, you know? Chasing birds that think they go the wrong direction. For me, I was just kind of following what my older brothers were doing. They like were into bands, and I was just like, cool, me too. But I like kind of was just tagging along. But then really when I started writing songs and stuff, I think I draw from kind of everything, because we're fed a lot of different music growing up. Like Simon and Garfunkel was always around as a kid, and like that kind of like James Taylor, that kind of world, the folk stuff, those hits, the kind of like 70s hits, the 80s hits. And Stillwater, like when I grew up, it was like radio definitely was a huge thing still, and The Spy was playing a lot of like alternative stuff early on that you could hear for the first time, you know. And so we could get that in Stillwater. I remember that being uh, a big thing. MTV2 as well was like was a big deal, because they were playing like Radiohead videos and all this stuff that was like seemed like another world from everything else that I was hearing, you know, from like mainstream radio. So those moments, I think, were big influences on me when I would see like another way to do something, where like the main way that had been working to put out, to write a song or whatever, those always spoke to me as well. I think I also just like took from these other avenues and other artists that were doing their own version of something that to me also was a hit. Iggy Pop and also the Stooges stuff. That stuff has a huge influence, specifically on like where Broncho first started, the Replacements, a lot of that kind of era, punk or rock and roll or whatever all that stuff is. You know, it's like that had a huge influence on me. And Iggy Pop has so much. He kind of has a fun umbrella for me musically, where it's like there's some of the like late 70s up tempo Stooges stuff that just feels so right to me, and feels so good. And then he has like kind of his 80s era stuff is in a different realm. Blah 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 record specifically, that it just feels so right to me as well. And I like how he goes in between those two worlds. And then the other records that are kind of can be a mix of those two veins. Those are things that I come to mind. I love Elliott Smith. I think he's someone who showed me that there's another way to do whatever way I was kind of being shown, you know, of what you can do with an acoustic guitar. He kind of had this whole other energy that he was bringing to that medium that instantly spoke to me when I was first hearing his music. Yeah, and I'm sure there's like tons more, you know, like Garth Brooks. Fucking love Garth Brooks, and all those are hits, you know. And so it's like can be kind of where from it can come from wherever. Like one of my all-time favorite songs is is from a James Bond movie called Moonraker, and it's Shirley Bassey. I have it right here. And it's just like it makes me cry. It's so perfect. Moonraker, Shirley Bassey. It's dude, it is so good. Yeah. And I don't even know what it means, but I just for some reason it makes so much sense to me.
On this record, what was the oldest song that like finally got recorded?
It's probably Original Guilt, but it also could be I Swear. Because I Swear had been an idea in my head like for a really long time. And then it kind of all came together at the perfect time for it too.
What was the core of the idea that like kept sitting around?
Just like the I basically had the first verse written like for years and just would sing that, but I hadn't like pieced the rest together until the last few years when I was working on this. And then the other stuff came together and made a lot of sense just in time, you know. I'm really glad that it was saved for this record. I feel like I think they make their most sense on this record of all of our records and this version of themselves, which I never had a version of I Swear. It was just always an idea in my head and I would play it. It's like all the lyrics for it got finished as this record was getting written, and then it was like just made tons of sense otherwise for it to be on the record. And same with Original Guilt. Original Guilt, we had recordings of it since our second record, so since like 2013.
How do you think this record compares to like your previous ones?
It was made in a very like similar way to all the other records. So in a lot of ways, it's very the same to me. It's slower, you know, for sure. Like in those terms, it is our slowest record, but it's also our longest record. So it was nice to break the 40-minute mark. All of our records have always been like 29 minutes, 30 minutes, barely 30 minutes, maybe a little over 30 minutes, but they're always around 30 minutes. And so this one's a little longer just because it's slower, but there's also a few more songs. And we broke the 40-minute mark. Feels like we're a real band now.
Does it ever like strike you that Broncho is like 15 years old?
Yeah, for sure. It's weird to think in times of like the years like that, because I kind of think in terms of records, and so like our last record in my mind was not that long ago, and then right before that was Double Vanity, so that's not that long ago. But then like actual reality time, it's 10 years ago. And I moved to Tulsa and then drove straight back to Norman for 2 months to record Double Vanity. That was I feel like all of our records take 2 months, but it might be stretched out over 2 years or like 4 years in the case of Natural Pleasure. But actual time spent in the studio is like 2 months, because like Double Vanity was the one record where we were just like, let's block out this amount of time and go in and do it. And so I had a bunch of ideas the way I normally do going into a record. And then we all just kind of like were locked in a studio for 2 months until it all was finished. And there was a huge period of time where nothing got done. And the stuff that was getting done was like getting our RV down from Tulsa to park it back there and then get it set up so it felt good back there. It was all about setting the vibe, I guess, and the making sure it felt good. We spent a lot of time on light bulbs and lamps, and then slowly kind of started doing some work, and then it all kind of snowballs in the end. And that's what it's kind of every record. It's just in different, sometimes it's like cut up because we're touring, or which was usually the case, was like we'd be touring a lot, and then maybe we'd have like some time to get in the studio, and then so it's just kind of broken up like that. But
Do you think you'll do like the next record the same way as Natural Pleasure, just sort of like stretching out the recording process?
I would think it would be quicker in the actual time wise. The real world reality, I would hope that it's quicker than where I was during the last phase. I was kind of in cryo freeze or something. Felt like I was in zero gravity, but now, yeah, I feel like it'll be quicker. But you never know. I hate to say that. I'm going to jinx myself, and it'll be 2031.
Yeah. When you say cryo freeze, what were you doing besides, I guess, raising your kids?
Um, I think just staying in one place, because up to that point we had toured so much that I really welcomed being and just having to stay home. I feel like I needed it. Being just like stationary, I really relaxed into that mode, and it felt very natural to be stationary. I kind of feel like I have two sides of me. One really enjoys the like go go go, we got to get there, and the other loves like, let's just stay right here. you know that's like my internal battle. So sometimes it can be confusing to me when like part of me is like, get up, let's go, and the other part's like, no way. And that's always kind of been my internal battle, but now I know how to talk about it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
When you're recording like an album, are you aiming to like have it sound like how it would sound live?
no, I'm really just trying to make sense of the song itself, like there in that moment and in the environment. But there's a time where I'm like, oh, like we gotta play these, and making sense of them sometimes can be really hard. I was really worried about this record in that same vein. It just kind of came together when we were all together, and I think we've had enough time that maybe it's easier to not fall into, you know, like wherever I was previously with like mega loud guitar. I can play a quieter guitar now. And maybe it just took a few years at home for me to be able to do that. But yeah, all came together way quicker. I was ever thinking. And now it's like easier now playing because this record is slower and we're all comfortable being Broncho in that world. Um, it's opened up other songs that we hadn't played previously. On like Double Vanity, there's like some slow songs that we just never really would play because we didn't know how to make sense of them, and now we're playing them. So it's like kind of a nice new perspective on the whole catalog in a way of like we can go back and play shit we just always abandoned, you know.
Do you think there's any reason why like the album ended up being a much slower album?
Yeah, I mean, every record we've ever done, when I'm playing a song, I'm usually playing it mega slow, and we end up speeding up, you know, because of the what it's called for. Because originally, Broncho was it was a project for a film. I was a songwriter, and I had a publishing deal, and so they would be like, "Hey, you know, we're looking for songs for this or whatever." And then I got this one that was like, there's this film looking for this era of punk music for this band. And so I just started writing these songs. And they ended up using, I think maybe one. Let's go out. Let's go out. Let's go out. I can't wait for entertaining you, sweet darling. I'm all dressed and ready to play. It was at a time where I was working on a record that was like half really, really slow and half like more upbeat. And so writing these songs really was like exercising that part of my brain that was wanting to do that. And it also turned out I had these 3 guys with me that were feeling it too, and we're like, let's just play a show with these songs, you know. We had like 6 songs and we played them in my living room for all of our friends. I can't wait for taking on you this evening. I'm all dressed and ready to go. Ask your mom for pen and one on you, sweet darling. You're all stressed and ready to go. Let's go out, and I'll be taking care of you all night. Let's go out, it won't be done until it feels alright. Let's go out, you tell them. They were shocked, you know. And then we played our first actual show here by Crystal Pistol in Tulsa. It used to be a bar in Tulsa. It's in between Cane's and Sound Pony. This, like, you walk through the bar and then there's like this door you kind of walk through, and there's this big black room in there that just was a perfect little venue. You've been looking nice for quite some time, sweet darling. You've been looking nice for quite some time, sweet darling. Let's go out. Let's go out. That was our first show in there. And then it just kind of went from there and started getting out of the original reason for the songs. Like, the original reason was like I had to write them for this project. Let's go out. And then that kind of spurred this whole other thing. And so by the time it got to the second record, it was kind of where I felt those songs were coming out of where I had been with the first record in a way that felt natural to me, like maybe would have happened anyway. I say all this to go back to the original question. Is all these songs I originally wrote really slow, and then I sped them up because I knew they needed to be in this range or whatever. And then every record since then, it was like I would just be writing really slow because it's just kind of, I guess, what I do. And then by the time we'd get to the studio, it would just be like speed it up. And then it started being a thing where our third record the songs didn't feel good sped up. It felt better for them to actually be as slow as they were, or we sped them up just as fast as we could without them feeling like it was a detriment to the song itself. And then I think we kind of settled in there through Double Vanity and Bad Behavior. Things wouldn't have to get sped up very much. It was like more mid-tempo. And so the Natural Pleasure was like all these songs, everything felt at its best, staying pretty close to where the original tempo was. And there's always some speed up that happens, but way less speed up on this record.
Are there any songs that you kind of want to dig into at all on like the writing process, recording process that you found just kind of stick out to you?
I think like on this record, there was several songs that happened really quick, and Imagination happened real fast. Shirley and Way Into Magic and Dreamin' all happened real fast. And those were all very like me by myself type moments. I left all those very low key even to the end, and obviously like Shirley and Way Into Magic are the least amount of production we've like put on a Broncho song. But it felt right. It kind of felt best like that. They just felt good like that. Anytime we tried it, just nothing felt as good as just like that version of it. But then Imagination and Dreamin', those songs are still very minimal. And there's even some acoustic in there. You'll hear it. I mean, we might have had acoustic like in the background somewhere to make something like texturally chunky or something on previous records, but nothing I can like immediately think of. But this is the first one where definitely we had acoustic on. Get Gone is a song that we had just kind of jammed out. We had a version of it. Like we had recorded this little like jam session we had with like Nathan was like on a little drum machine. We were all in my living room, and so we had this version of the song where it's like that drum machine and bass were all on the same thing. But it just felt so good. So that's in there. I was just singing kind of like nonsense at that point, but we had this song. And every once in a while, someone would send me the bounce of it, and it slowly, every time I heard it, I was like, yes, that's the one. Until eventually I asked Ben, I was like, hey, Ben, can you send me like, do you have the session of that? You know, I was like trying to find like the root source because I just loved it so much. I didn't want to go trying to like redo it, you know, I just wanted to make that work. And I think maybe we did try redoing it, and it just nothing felt as magical as like that first idea. I basically took that and then cut it up into, it's like, okay, here's an actual song if we take out all like, you know, just us jamming around for a while. And I sped it up. It was pretty slow, but I felt like if it was just sped up a little, this is going to feel great. The synth part on that was Chad was getting ready to leave for the day, and he was just going to leave the studio to us, you know, to just go nuts. And so I was like, do you have a synth, just a classic synth sound? And he was like, yeah, do hold up. And so he went and dug this synth out, and the whole part that's on that song is him giving me a demo for what the synth can do. But it was so perfect. Everything he was playing, I was like, yes. And he was like, and you can kind of do this. And he was doing all this stuff. I was like, yes, play. And luckily he was recording it. So like sometimes stuff like that happens, and if you're lucky enough, you hit record and you captured it, because who knows if you can redo it.
What I'm hearing is sort of a theme of just like doing what's natural, doing like taking the first take of like a lot of things.
I do love first takes. I think there's something magical about having some of those first moments, as many of those as can be in there. I usually, and that feel right. Those are the ones that I really push for. If it just feels right and we can't recapture it, that happened a lot on Original Guilt. There's a kind of a bluesy guitar part in the background that I played on an older version that was like different speed, different key, that I figured out the math on how to like get it to where it was with everything else. I really believed in that moment. I like pushing for that stuff because I think there's something that happens in a moment that for me sometimes it's just really hard to replicate whatever happened. And I think there's probably people that are really good at that. But for me, I find that maybe I did it once and I'm never going to do it again. But then that's what touring's for. You eventually play those parts over and over and you're like, all right, let's go back into the studio, But when you're doing everything for the first time and, you never know what's going to happen. That's maybe the excitement of doing a record or just even a song on its own. You just have no idea how anything's going to feel, because I could have a song in my head forever and have all these parts in my head. And by the time I get in there, all that might not make sense to me anymore, or how I try to get those out. And so for me, being open to other people's take on whatever it is that we're working on. There's a lot of magic that happens there, and that's why I love playing with everybody that's with us. Penny, she's got a great knack for melody and lyrics in a way that just really melds into my world. And same with Ben and Nathan. We all I like the way everybody interprets maybe something that I've been living with for a while. Our buddy Brendan's been playing with us. Ben is having a baby, and so he hasn't been touring on this last tour. And so our buddy Brendan's been playing with us, and Brendan just is the same. Like, he just really fits in to our speed and our world in a way that is very effortless. And then going back even to your earlier question, a lot of creation does happen in those moments of being together, and you get comfortable with people and you really start being yourself, and you're talking about stuff, and a lot of things get done in those moments, even just on a personal level, just thinking about things and having time to talk about it, and hear what's going on in the world in a way that maybe I'm not getting just from myself. It's good hearing everybody's version of daily events, and those things all, I think, ultimately wind up in whatever we are.
Were there any songs that were particularly difficult to like record or finish writing? Or is that like a sign that, oh, maybe we should put this one aside?
Well, save time. We had a few versions of it, and it was a little faster, a little louder, and that's where I originally fell in love with the idea of like what the song actually was, which is just me singing the same note over and over through the whole song. I liked that, but then I kind of started to fall out of love a little bit with where the song was at. And so we kept exploring and would come back around and try a different version. And then ultimately we landed on the one that's on the record. And when we got there, it just instantly felt like the version. That was a great moment. Those little like victories that happen when you're working on a record can energize you to do things that you previously, didn't have energy for or whatever. Yeah, the record kind of was a little different, or at least like there were some songs that weren't going to be on it that ended up being on it, and then songs that were definitely always going to be on it that are now no longer on it. I Think I Pass is one of those songs where like it's a song I'd had for like a demo version of it that I'd been sending, and also You Got Me. Those were right next to each other on the record. Those weren't going to be on the record. And so I'd cut out some other songs, and it basically was just the 10 songs minus You Got Me and Think I Pass. Nathan and I were driving back to Tulsa from Blackwatch, and he was like, "Man, why isn't Think I Passed and You Got Me on there?" And I was like, I was like, I don't know. And then we put them on, and I was like, "You're totally right," Those moments are nice when you didn't even intend it to be on there, and then it ends up being the one that people gravitate towards. But that song was another moment in the studio where, like the general thing, we're still trying to make full sense of it, and then a guitar part happens that ties everything together. Chad played that part too. It was like the same thing with Get Gone, where he's like, I don't know this. and then he like plays the whole synth part and you're like, that's perfect. He did that with the guitar part on Think I Pass. It's like one of my favorite moments on the record for sure.
Do you think your songwriting style has like changed dramatically over the last couple years, or even the last 15 years of being a band?
Well, I mean, the way I go about writing songs, I feel like is the same. I know everything sounds different. I feel like I'm always trying to, me personally, what I'm telling myself is that I'm working on whatever song comes into my mind and trying to make sense of that song. But I know if I like reverse out a little bit and look at the situation, that I'm being influenced, as I listen to more stuff or maybe gravitate back to stuff that I used to be into or whatever. So I know there's that stuff going on, but it's hard for me to think about those things when I'm like creative mode or trying to just, I think I like to just let things happen subconsciously and try to pull from those as an ideas coming into my head. I more think about it in these moments where I'm talking through, and I know I said this to someone else. It was interviewing me that these are like therapy sessions for me. Because I'm able to think about stuff and and then talk about it. I don't know. I like doing interviews because they really feel like therapy sessions, and so thank you.
You can find other episodes of Songwriters and Tour Writers on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find Songwriters and Tour Writers on social media at Songwriters Tour Writers. Songwriters and Tour Writers is a production of KOSU and Oklahoma State University. Our editor is Ryan LaCroix, and our cover art was created by Terry Ferris. Thanks for listening. I'm Matthew Viriapa.